People transmit energy. Look, this is something I'm passionate about because it's so obvious, so simple, and so powerful that I don't understand why they don't teach it in school. It's something we experience every day, in every interaction, but we're often unaware of it. And when you understand it, when you truly internalize it, it can completely change your way of seeing life and the way you relate to others. Think for a moment about your daily life. You leave the house, you run into neighbors, you go to work, you talk to colleagues, you come home and spend time with your family or friends. Every interaction, every conversation, every simple gesture has an impact. And the key is this: we all transmit something. It could be enthusiasm, joy, optimism, or it could be tiredness, pessimism, and complaints. But what is certain is that we are never neutral. Let me give you a very simple example. I'm sure you know someone who, as soon as you see them, brightens your day. It doesn't matter if you saw them 2 weeks ago or 5 minutes ago. They always have that spark, that twinkle in their eyes, that attitude that lifts your spirits. When they talk to you, they do so with energy, enthusiasm, and genuine interest. They laugh, they listen, they make you feel good. And when you say goodbye to that person, you feel like it was worth talking to them. It's like they've recharged your batteries. And then there are the others. Those people who, as soon as you see them, you already know what's going to happen. They haven't even opened their mouths yet, and they're already looking like rotten chard. And when they do talk, wow, they complain about everything. About work, traffic, politics, the weather, their mother-in-law, life in general. And it's not that they've had a bad day, no. They're always like that. No matter what happens, they always find something negative. And talking to them is exhausting. They drain your energy. You come out of that conversation worse than you were before. Now here comes the key part. What kind of person are you? Because we often complain about others, but we don't realize what we ourselves are transmitting. Are you one of those who add or one of those who subtract? Are you one of those who illuminate or one who dim? Because this, my friends, isn't something that depends on luck or money or the job you have. It depends on attitude. And be careful. This doesn't mean we have to spend all day smiling from ear to ear as if we've been injected with liquid happiness. No, life is difficult, and we all have problems, bad days, moments when we feel exhausted. But what we can do is choose how we want to face those situations and, above all, what energy we want to transmit to others. Because people aren't going to remember us for how many titles we have, or how much money we earn, or the car we drive. They're going to remember us for how we made them feel. There's a phrase I love that sums this up perfectly. People forget what you said, people forget what you did, but they never forget how you made them feel. So every day, in every conversation, in every encounter, we have an opportunity. Are we going to be those who add or those who subtract? Because life is already difficult enough without surrounding ourselves with people who make it even more complicated. So the next time you talk to someone, pay attention to what you convey. And if you can be one of those who illuminate, who spread enthusiasm, who give them the will to live, do it. Because there's nothing more beautiful than leaving a mark on the lives of others through our energy and our attitude. Your attitude multiplies. Look, this is very simple, and at the same time, it's one of the most important things you can learn in life. There are people who spend years studying, earning master's degrees, accumulating degrees, but they don't realize something fundamental. Your attitude multiplies everything. I'll explain it with a very simple formula that I always mention in my talks. V equals C plus H x A, where V is a person's value, what they contribute. C is knowledge, what you know. H are skills, what you know how to do. A is attitude. Look closely. Knowledge adds up, skills add up, but attitude multiplies. I mean, you can be a genius, you can be ace at what you do, but if you have a terrible attitude, it's useless. On the other hand, you may not be the smartest or the most talented, but if you have a positive attitude, drive, energy, enthusiasm, you make a difference. Think about it. You probably know someone who is brilliant at their job, who knows a ton, who has incredible experience, but who is a bitch, bitter, a complainer. They're the type who, as soon as they walk into the office, brings everyone's spirits down. He's that colleague who, no matter how expert he is, no one wants to work with because he doesn't add anything. He doesn't transmit anything. He doesn't multiply anything. And then there's the other profile, that person who perhaps doesn't have 3 degrees or an impressive resume, but who has something that changes everything: attitude. They're the ones who face problems with enthusiasm, who are always willing to help, who look for solutions instead of excuses. And those are the people who succeed. Those are the people who leave their mark. Because in life, we're not so much differentiated by what we know, but by who we are and how we face things. Attitude is what makes the difference between those who wait for something to happen and those who make things happen, between those who see problems and those who see opportunities, between those who complain and those who look for solutions. That's why I always say that the most important thing isn't what's in your head or what's in your pocket, but what's in your heart. Attitude isn't something you're born with or not. It's something you choose every day, and it's your best tool to change your life and the lives of those around you. Because life is like a mirror. It gives you back what you give it. If you go in with a shitty attitude, life responds with shitty. But if you go in with desire, with enthusiasm, with the will to contribute, to add, to help, you'll be surprised by what you can achieve. So ask yourself, what attitude are you choosing today? Because no matter what you know or what you have, if your attitude is good, it will multiply everything. And if your attitude is bad, it will ruin everything. Choose well, because that's what will make the difference in your life. People aren't great because of their talent, but because of their personality. Look, this is something I love to repeat, because people have a tremendous obsession with talent. We've been taught that to excel in life you have to be a genius, gifted, number one at everything. And no, what truly makes a person great isn't what they know or what they have. It's their personality. Have you noticed that the people we admire most aren't the smartest or the richest, but those who have something special? They're the people who are a pleasure to be around, who have values, who inspire, who treat others well. Because in the end, what really matters isn't what you do or what you achieve, but how you do it and how you impact others. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're on a team and there's a colleague who's a real genius. He knows everything, solves problems in seconds, has an impressive resume, but he's a jerk. He doesn't listen to anyone, thinks he's smarter than everyone else, is selfish and arrogant. What's wrong with that person? No one wants to work with him. Because yes, he may be very good in his field, but his personality ruins everything. Now, imagine another person who, perhaps, isn't a genius, doesn't have 3 master's degrees or speaks 5 languages, but has an incredible attitude. They're humble, generous, caring, and always willing to help. That person is the one who leaves a mark, the one everyone respects, and the one who earns the affection of others. Because in the end, people don't remember you for your titles, or for what you've accomplished, or for how much you know. They remember you for how you made them feel, for how you treated them, for the energy you transmitted. That's why I always say there are 2 types of people: those who go through life adding. They're the ones who inspire, who transmit values, who leave a positive impact. Those who subtract. They're the ones who only think about themselves, who lack empathy, who believe that the only thing that matters is personal success. And here's the key. You decide which group you want to be in. It doesn't depend on your talent, your intelligence, or luck. It depends on your personality. Look, in life you can be many things. You can be smart, you can be hardworking, you can be ambitious. But the most important thing of all, what will truly make the difference, is being a good person. Because good people, people who act with values, people who treat others well, those are the people who earn everyone's respect and admiration. So forget about wanting to be the most talented or the most successful. What really matters is who you are as a person, because that's what will truly make you great. Enthusiasm changes everything. Look, if there's one thing that truly makes a difference in life, it's enthusiasm. It's incredible. It's a magic ingredient, the one that transforms any situation, the one that makes you shine, the one that gives you strength when things get tough. And best of all, it's free and depends entirely on you. I always say there are 2 types of people in the world: those who go with enthusiasm, with excitement, with energy. They're the ones who spread good vibes, the ones who make everything seem easier, the ones who cheer you up just by being there, close to them. those with faces like rotten chard, who look like they carry the weight of the world on their shoulders. Oh my goodness, how exhausting. These are the people who always find a problem, who are always complaining, who go through life with an attitude of constant defeat. And here comes the key question. Which group are you in? Because enthusiasm isn't something you're born with or not. It's a choice. It doesn't depend on winning the lottery or on everything going well for you in life. It depends on your attitude. You may have a bad day. You may have problems. You may be going through a difficult time, but enthusiasm is what keeps you going, what gives you strength, what allows you to enjoy the good and face the bad with more enthusiasm. Think of anyone you admire, anyone who inspires you. They're sure to have enthusiasm. They're sure to be someone who puts passion into what they do, who doesn't drag their feet through life. Because the people who truly leave their mark aren't the smartest, the richest, or the most beautiful. They're the people who live with enthusiasm. And this applies to everything. At work, who do you prefer on your team? Someone who complains all day or someone who is enthusiastic about what they do? In your personal life, who do you prefer to spend time with? Someone who transmits energy and joy or someone who only talks about problems? In your day-to-day life, how do you want to live? Reluctantly or with enthusiasm? Because the reality is this. Enthusiastic people are the most successful, the ones who enjoy life the most, the ones who make life worthwhile. And not because they're lucky, but because they decided to live with passion. Look, life is very short. It flies by. It's not worth living without enthusiasm, without excitement, without enthusiasm. I'm not saying you have to be jumping for joy all day, because there are tough times. Of course there are, but we can choose to put attitude into it, put energy into it, put life into it. Because if you don't do it yourself, no one will do it for you. And if you let yourself be carried away by inertia, you'll end up like those who go through life without spark, without light, without anything that makes them special. So today, right now, ask yourself, how do I want to live? With enthusiasm or without it? Because the difference between a mediocre life and an extraordinary life lies in the energy you put into it. Life is a matter of priorities. Look, here's something we all know but often forget. You can't have everything in life. You can't be the best at work, have a perfect family, be in shape, go out with friends, read 3 books a month, exercise, meditate, and also get 8 hours of sleep. There isn't time for everything. And that means we have to choose. Life is a matter of priorities. And the problem is that we often act like headless chickens, running from one place to another, try to do everything. And in the end, we forget the most important things. We fill our schedules with meetings, tasks, commitments, urgent matters. And we put off the essentials, the things that truly give meaning to our lives. And then what happens, happens. One day you realize you spent years working like crazy, but you've barely seen your children grow up, or that you've been so busy being productive that you haven't stopped to enjoy the little things, or that you've tried so hard to please others that you've forgotten about yourself. So, if I've learned anything, it's that you have to stop and think. Think about what really matters in your life and put it first. Because if you don't, life will put so many things before you that you'll end up putting off the essentials. I'll tell you a story I love that explains this perfectly. A teacher comes into class with a glass jar and fills it with large stones. He asks the students, "Is it full?" "Yes," they all answer. Then he takes out a sack of gravel and pours it into the jar. The small stones squeeze through the gaps. "And now, is it full?" "Yes, well, more or less." The teacher smiles and takes out a jar of sand. He pours it into the jar, and the grains of sand fill the last spaces. "Is it full now?" "Yes." Then he takes a jug of water and pours it in, filling it to the last crevice. And he says, "If we had put the sand and gravel first, not a single big stone would have fit." And here's the key. The big stones are the most important things in your life. Your family, your values, your health, your happiness. What really matters. The gravel and sand are the other things. Work, commitments, daily obligations. If you fill your life with sand and gravel, you won't have room for the important things. So, ask yourself this question, what are my big stones? Because life flies by. And in the end, it's not about being the busiest or the most productive, but but about living with meaning, with balance, putting what really matters first. Because if you don't prioritize what's important, you'll end up living on autopilot and forgetting what's essential. So today, right now, decide what your priorities are and make sure you give them the time and space they deserve. Because in how you choose to fill your jar, lies the key to a full and happy life. Fear is the worst enemy of our possibilities. Look, if there's one thing that limits us more than anything else, it's fear. Fear paralyzes us, makes us doubt ourselves, makes us think we're not capable, that we won't achieve it. And the worst part is that fear is an illusion, a belief we create ourselves, but that has no basis in reality. Let me tell you something. We all, absolutely all of us, have fears. The fear of failure, the fear of what people will say, the fear of the unknown. But the most curious thing of all is that fear only exists when we let it enter our minds, when we don't face it, when we don't challenge it. And the more we let it grow, the bigger it gets, until it prevents us from making decisions, leaving our comfort zone, trying new things. I ask you, have you ever been afraid of doing something? Of making an important decision? I'm sure you have. And you know what? That fear often has no basis. It's just a thought that tells you, don't do it. You're not capable. Better stay where you are. But if you look closely, you'll realize that the voice telling you can is just a reflection of your own insecurity. But here's the interesting part. Fear isn't what limits you, but what you do with it. Because we all have fears, but the people who truly achieve extraordinary things are those who decide not to let those fears rule their lives. A clear example can be seen in sports. A professional athlete feels fear before an important competition. They may have doubts. They may think they're not up to it. But instead of letting it paralyze them, they decide to face it. They decide to compete despite that fear. And often, that's what sets them apart. It's not that they don't feel fear, it's that despite it, they act. The same thing happens in life. You have two choices. You can stay in your comfort zone, avoiding everything that scares you, or you can decide to act despite your fears. Because fear will always be there in every important decision you make. And if you wait for fear to disappear, start acting, you'll never get anything done. Fear prevents us from growing, makes us doubt our abilities, makes us think we're not capable of taking the next step. But the truth is, the only way to grow is confront fear, do it despite it, don't wait for it to go away. And that's the key. Fear won't let you move forward if you don't face it. Think about a time you overcame a fear. Maybe it was in your work, in your personal life, or in a challenge you faced. Do you remember how you felt afterward? How the fear vanished as soon as you dare to take that first step? It's an incredible feeling. Because once you dare to act, you realize that the fear was much bigger in your head than in reality. So, I'm telling you very clearly, don't let fear rule your life. You decide whether you're going to live limited by your fears, or whether you're going to face them and move forward, learning from every step you take. Because in that confrontation lies your true freedom and your possibilities for growth. Remember, fear will never go away, but you can decide whether to give it power over you or whether to go beyond it, despite it. What others think has nothing to do with you. It has to do with them. Here's one of those lessons that, if you manage to internalize, will completely change your life. In reality, what others think has absolutely nothing to do with you. It doesn't matter what they say, what they think, whether they criticize or praise you, because, in the end, what others think is only a reflection of themselves, not of you. Let me explain why. People see the world through their own perspective, their own beliefs, their experiences. What seems right to them, what makes them uncomfortable, what they like or dislike, is conditioned by their personal history, and therefore their opinions are not absolute truths. They are simply what they have experienced and lived through. Have you ever felt like someone criticized you for no reason? That they judge you without really knowing you? Or even praise you for something that doesn't seem that important to you? That's because what others think of you has nothing to do with who you really are, but with what they project onto you. Everything is filtered through their own beliefs, prejudices, expectations, and experiences. And this, I assure you, is liberating. Because if you understand that other people's opinions don't define you, then you stop carrying the weight of what others think. You stop taking responsibility for their thoughts and emotions. That is something that will give you peace, because if you try to please everyone, you will end up losing yourself. No one can do that. No one can live up to the expectations of others. That is exhausting. I remember when I started giving talks and lectures. At first, I was afraid of what people might think. I was worried about being criticized, not being accepted, not being liked. But over time, I realized something fundamental. People judge you from their own perspective. If they criticize you, it's because they're projecting their own insecurities or expectations of you. And if they praise you, it's because they're seeing something in you that resonates with their worldview. None of that has anything to do with you. What's more, if you live obsessed with what others think of you, you become a slave to their judgment. You no longer live for yourself, but to please others, to avoid criticism, or to get more praise. And that's not living. That's surviving. What's really important is that you learn to live from your truth, to care more about what you think of yourself than what others think, to surround yourself with people who support you and value you for who you are, not for what you try to present to make them like you. People who truly respect you don't do so for what you do or don't do, but for who you are as a person. And those are the kinds of relationships that truly matter. So, the next time someone criticizes you or makes you feel bad, remember this. It has nothing to do with you. It's their perspective, their experiences, and their story they're talking about, not your worth as a person. And deep down, the only opinion that matters is the one you have of yourself. If you're at peace with yourself, if you know who you are, if you're aligned with your values, the rest, it simply doesn't matter. Happiness isn't a destination. It's a way of traveling. Here's another one of those great life lessons. If there's one thing I discovered a long time ago, it's that happiness isn't something you achieve once you reach a place, a goal, or an objective. It's not a destination. It's not an end point where, upon arrival, everything will be perfect and you'll be happy forever. Happiness is a path, a way of living, an attitude you choose every day, every moment. The curious thing about happiness is that most people look for it in external things. The perfect job, the ideal partner, the dream vacation, the car of their dreams. But you'd be surprised at how many people, even with all of that, still feel empty, unsatisfied, and believe that happiness is still beyond their reach. The truth is, happiness isn't about what you have, but about how you live, how you interpret things, how you face challenges, and how you choose to live each day. Think about it. We've all known people who, even if they have a lot of money, fame, or everything society considers success, aren't happy. And yet, there are people who have none of that and are incredibly happy. Why? Because happiness isn't about what you have, but about how you enjoy what you have, your ability to enjoy the present and find reasons to be grateful. People often associate happiness with a permanent state, as if it were something only achieved after a major achievement or a major change in their life. But no, happiness is found in the everyday, in enjoying the little things. It's in having a quiet cup of coffee in the morning, in listening to a child's laughter, in watching a sunset, in enjoying a good conversation. It's in learning to see the good in what you already have, in appreciating what's around you, in having the ability to be happy with the simple things. Throughout my life, I've spoken with many people who have achieved great things, who have reached impressive goals, yet they still told me things like, when I reach X, I'll be happy, or when I achieve this, then I'll be at peace with myself. But what happens when you achieve that? Most likely, that feeling of happiness is fleeting, and you realize that once you reach that goal, you already have a new one in mind, and the cycle continues. So what's the trick? The trick is to enjoy the journey, not wait for that big achievement to arrive to be happy. Of course, having goals is important. Of course, achieving goals is wonderful, but the real magic is in the journey, in what you learn, in how you face challenges, in how you enjoy every moment, in how fulfilled you feel as you move forward. Happiness is a daily choice, an exercise in consciousness in which you decide that, despite difficulties, you will look for the positive in every situation. You will be grateful for what you have, and you will learn to live in the present. And I assure you that when you adopt that mindset, something incredible happens. Happiness begins to grow within you, regardless of what happens outside of you. It's not about waiting to have it all, but rather learning to enjoy what you have now, here and now. Because in the end, what matters isn't how much you achieve or what you accomplish, but how you choose to enjoy life. Happiness isn't a destination, it's a way of traveling. And it's something that's within your reach every day. You just need to open your eyes and decide to see the world through the eyes of someone who is already happy, without having to wait for anything. Attitude is everything. You don't control what happens, but you do control how you react. There's one thing I'm absolutely clear about. In life, we don't control what happens to us, but we do control how we deal with it. And that attitude is the key to everything. Because circumstances change, life challenges us, surprises us with unexpected things, some good, some bad, and that's where our attitude comes into play. I'll tell you something. I've met people who've been through incredibly difficult situations, real tragedies, things that make you wonder how they keep going. And yet, you see them with a smile, with energy, with a desire to fight. And on the other hand, I've met people who, despite having a relatively comfortable life, spend their days complaining, seeing problems in everything, as if they were trapped in a permanent dark cloud. What's the difference between them? Attitude. Look, life isn't fair. Life doesn't always give us what we want. There will be good times and hard times. But the question isn't what happens, but how you decide to face it. Because you can decide to live each day as a victim or as a fighter. You can complain about what you don't have, or be grateful for what you do have. You can focus on what you can't change, or focus on what is in your hands. Because, mind you, complaining is easy. Being negative is easy. The hard part is maintaining a good attitude when things don't go as you expected. That's what really makes the difference. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're walking down the street and it starts to rain. You don't have an umbrella. You can't make it stop raining. You can't control the weather. But you can choose how to react. You can curse your bad luck, get angry, say the universe is against you, or you can laugh, enjoy the moment, walk in the rain, even take advantage of it to jump in puddles like a child. The situation is the same, but your attitude completely changes the experience. And this, applied to life, is exactly the same. If you lose a job, you can sink into despair or see it as an opportunity to start something new. If you have a problem, you can complain without doing anything or focus on finding solutions. If you face a difficult challenge, you can see it as an insurmountable obstacle or as a learning opportunity. In the end, what truly defines you is not what happens to you, but how you choose to face it. Because life, I guarantee you, will test you. But you decide whether those trials sink you or strengthen you. And here's the good news. Attitude can be trained. It's not a matter of that's just the way I am or I've always been negative. No, attitude is like a muscle you can work every day. How? Practicing gratitude. Every day, find at least 3 things to be thankful for. Focusing on solutions. When you have a problem, instead of complaining, ask yourself, what can I do about it? Caring for your environment. Surround yourself with people who contribute, who inspire you, who have good energy. Choosing your approach. Every day, every moment, you have the option to choose how to view it. And that choice defines your life. So I leave you with this question. What attitude are you going to choose today? Because there, in that decision, lies the key to everything.